your Friday. And to First Things First, I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Chris Carter, as he is every day. That is Nick Wright. How is everybody?
Outstanding.
You're in a good mood today.
What happened? I mean, this is the first day I wake up since Father's Day 2016 that the Golden State Warriors wake up facing elimination. That's a good day for sports fans, man.
CC.
When Goliath is on the brink, unless you're from the Bay, there's no hateration here, no Queen Petties on the after show, no pettiness, just when you wake up in the morning and the most talented team in NBA history is on the brink of elimination.
That puts you in a good mood.
It's a good day.
Either that or you wake up and you watch First Things First, and Jenna Wolfe has the hottest dress on anyone in television will ever have on.
Thank you. You guys are very kind and very sweet.
You talking
got that right.
Let's go.
Jenna Wolfe, let's go.
Let's go, Jenna.
Awesome.
Wow.
A lot of moisturizing cream on today. If I told you that neither James Harden nor Chris Paul were outstanding in a pivotal Game 5 against the Golden State Warriors, would you still take the Rockets? Well, you should have. Just like in Game 4, this one came down to the wire, and the Warriors had the ball with a chance to win, but could not. Rockets turn around, pull this one out. They get a big win last night. 98-94 was your final. However, in the process, they might have lost Chris Paul. He had to leave the game with a hamstring injury. Could be a factor later in the game. We will get to all of it, but first, here's James Harden after the game.
Can't explain it. We just can't talk about it. We just go out there and show it. You know, we don't. You know, we've been having that motto all year. We don't really talk a lot. we go out there and play hard and prove people wrong. I mean, that's all we can do up to this point as well. You know, Game 6, we know the atmosphere. We know how crazy it's going to be. We know what's at stake. But, you know, we're going to go out there and just go and shoot our shots. And if they fall, they fall. That's a bonus. But defensively, if we lock in like we've been doing, yeah, we got a chance.
And a lot of James Harden's shots didn't fall last night. And when a reporter asked him about it, he said, hey, who cares? We won. That's all that really matters. CC, how are they able to do it? How did the Rockets beat the Warriors in Game 5?
There's not one thing, but if there was one thing that led them to victory, and we've talked about it only a little bit because given the coach, given his history, how he runs his offense, given Harden, how he scores the ball, given the rest of the team, Chris Paul, and how they've operated and the success that they've had or lack of playoff success that they haven't been able to have, it all amounts to defense, grit, hustle. That's the difference in this Houston team and the other teams that I've seen D'Antonio coach, the other teams I've seen Chris Paul on, the other teams I've seen James Harden on, and they got some help. Like the coach has got some help. He's got some guys willing to change their typical mode of operate, how they're going to go about doing business and play some defense. Pass up maybe a shot to get a guy a better shot. So you can see the total buy-in, but when you hold Golden State in the last 2 games to the numbers that they've held them to, you have to give credit to their defense. We talked about 2016 season. They were 26 in defense, went all the way up to number 6 this year. But even this season, they were 18th in defense, in total defense in the NBA, and moved up to that 6 mark. So those things are starting to play out in Game 4 and game number 5. And to me, those are the things that you can see. Those are the edge. Those are the differences in this Houston, the 2017-2018 version that's trying and really have chance to be world champions compared to the other teams I saw Chris Paul on, Harden on, and the ones that D'Antonio coached.
Listen, to build on the defense part of it, from the beginning of the 4th quarter of Game 4 to 2 minutes left in the 1st quarter of Game 5, in 22 minutes of basketball, the most talented team ever put together scored 22 points. 1 point a minute might get it done in like 7th, 8th grade junior high league. That doesn't get it done in the NBA. The defense was not quite as good after that, but still very good the rest of the way. And that's the only way you can overcome the MVP going 0 for 11 from 3. That's the only way you can overcome Chris Paul being 0 for 7 from the field in the first half. Yesterday on the show, I will make a bit of a confession here. I had a little bit of inside information when I said I think the Rockets are going to have one of those 3-point avalanche games. I knew going into the game that the game plan was shoot 40 to 45 threes. D'Antoni said after the game, I told him, we got to shoot 40 to 45 threes. Now, they shot 43 of them. They couldn't make them. They were 13 of 43. They won anyway. Trevor Ariza made 1 basket. They won anyway. what they were able to do last night, with the league MVP having a bad game by any measure, with Chris Paul being awful in the first half to then very good in the second half, it doesn't happen if the defense isn't there to keep you within striking distance.
And those aren't things that we talked about. We talked about, and Jenna, you held Nick and I to this. Well, you guys said that Chris Paul and Harden don't play outstanding.
Yeah.
They don't have a chance. Well, we didn't know. Or if we were being honest, we were wrong.
Yep.
Because the way this team came together, I mean, you're holding them under 95 points, under 100 points, you're going to have a chance. We couldn't see that part of it. So those team aspects of what they're doing, the total buy-in, there's no one that could have predicted, besides shooting that number of threes, that they were going to get that type of response. And we never thought there was a path to victory with them not shooting outstanding from the three-point line.
And the path to victory over the last 2 games with Harden missing 20 consecutive threes. Harden has missed his last 20 three-pointers. In that stretch, the Rockets have outscored the Warriors by 12 points. And I want to give D'Antoni...
That's
crazy. Since Harden is over his last 23s, in that stretch, it's from midway second quarter of Game 4 until where we sit here this morning, the Rockets have outscored the Warriors by 12 points while Harden hasn't made a three. And here's where I'll give D'Antoni credit. One of the reasons they're playing better defensively is while D'Antoni's like, we're not going to change anything, we're going to do what we do, they did change one of the things they're doing defensively. They're not switching every screen.
No.
Which is preventing Golden State from being able to slip the screens to get easy layups.
Yes.
They are switching smarter. And the other thing D'Antoni's done is say, we're going to play 7 dudes. I don't care that the 7th of the 7 was unemployed a few months ago. Joe Johnson, you've got all NBA pedigree. Sit down. Ryan Anderson, you're making $21 million a year. Sit down. Luka Sharma-Bahamute, you've been excellent for us all year. You're injured. You're not yourself. Sit down. We're rolling with our 7 guys, and we're good with it.
Except that the Rockets wake up this morning unsure of what's going to be from Chris Paul, who had to leave the game with a hamstring injury. How do you move forward from here unsure of what you get from him, and who would you even replace him with?
Well, to me, it's no different than Golden State, their adjustment they had to make with Clay. Late in the playoffs, Nick and I always talk about this, the fatigue of the regular season. We're not surprised Chris Paul got hurt. We're just glad it's not his Achilles. He's been dealing with a bad Achilles on his right side. Jenna, you know, as a great athlete in fitness, that you know you're going to overcompensate. So either you're going to hurt your knee with the Achilles bothering you, or you're going to hurt your hamstring. And that's what you see with Chris Paul. You know, he had a bad right Achilles. He was really having problems with it in game number 3.
I thought that's what had happened. I thought when he didn't get up to go up the court,
I'm glad he grabbed his hamstring.
I was like, did this guy pop his Achilles? Because if he pops his Achilles, of course he's done for the year. But at his age, his size, you worry about, is he done for the future as well? You said Clay. You mean the same as what Golden State's doing without Iggy?
No, with Clay, when he got nicked.
Oh, when he got nicked in the game.
Yeah, you make adjustments, because I believe Chris Paul's going to try to play.
Yes.
Like those types of players that have the type of resume he's got, they're going to try to be out there. And the luxury that they have that Chris Paul has never had at any point in his career, he's not the predominant ball handler. He's basically a spot-up shooter, and then every once in a while, they give it to him to go isolation. I believe that part of the offense can be replaced. But from a defensive standpoint, you can't replace how good Chris Paul is as far as a defender.
But also, the Warriors were able to win without Iggy in the lineup and with a Klay Thompson, who, even though he dropped, 23 or something last night?
The Warriors haven't won without Iggy in the lineup in this series yet.
Yes.
But they wouldn't have to rely on him. He's not their go-to guy.
Oh.
And while the Rockets won last night without both these guys being great, this was just one game where they won without both of them being at least contributing.
Listen, I have not yet fully entertained the idea that Chris Paul could be out for the series. Not only because it would be unfair to him and be unfair to basketball fans, but I've talked ad nauseum about how many lucky breaks, injury breaks the Warriors have gotten, whether it's Kawhi going down, whether it's Kyrie and Kevin Love going down, whether we can go down the list. Chris Paul is, you can argue, much like we do with the Warriors, who's the best, who's the most important. He's not the best player on the Rockets. You can argue he's the most important. They're only, in my opinion, path to victory if he doesn't play in a game is what I thought they were going to do last night, which is unconscious from three, like where just a three-point barrage. But it makes them, you can't play six guys. If Chris Paul's out, you've got to now extend the rotation. No. Now guys who haven't been getting minutes have to get minutes.
No, and that doesn't, just because Chris Paul, if he decides not to play two, that doesn't mean that the rotation only increases by one.
Right.
I believe D'Antoni goes back and maybe plays three guys.
Exactly.
Right. Chris Paul goes back and plays eight guys, have an eight-man rotation. And I believe the ball handling skills, too, because the way they run their offense, that can be replaced.
And Chris Paul, you saw it yesterday. There was a great moment before he got hurt when Harden was clearly exhausted. There were about 3 minutes left in the game. And Chris Paul, during a timeout, just starts jumping up and down in Harden's face, basically saying, we're not allowed to be tired right now. We've got to go. Like that, I know he doesn't have a championship. He is a championship-level leader. They need him desperately the rest of the way.
All right, the Rockets now up 3-2 in the Western Conference Finals. In the East, can LeBron will the Cavs to a Game 7 in Boston? That's next. Game 6 tonight in Cleveland. Boston won Game 5.
Those guys in Wisconsin are frisky, though.
They were good at home, and LeBron was tired on the road. Boston hoping to be good on the road, and LeBron rested at home. LeBron James facing elimination in the Eastern Conference playoffs just for the first time since 2010. Here he is talking about it after Game 5.
I'm going back home. We have a comfort level, and a lot of our guys have a comfort level of being back home and playing off the fans and playing off our crowd, playing off that court, being more comfortable being back home for Game 6. So, we look forward to having an opportunity to force a Game 7. The game is it's up to us to see if we can, come back here for one more.
All right, Nick, besides LeBron James putting up 100 points on his own, what do the Cavs need to do to win this game?
Well, I reject the premise of the question, besides the LeBron James part of it. This is statistically speaking, the greatest elimination game player in the history of the sport. Nobody's ever averaged more points per game in elimination games. We talked about it going into Game 7 against Indiana, how since he walked off the court against Dallas, the lowest moment of his career, he has faced elimination 13 times. He's 10-3 in those games. He's scored at least 12 times. The one time he didn't was a Game 7 of the finals triple-double. By the way, that stretch started in a Game 6 in Boston in 2012. Arguably the most important game of LeBron's career is 45-15-5. So Game 7, I believe the Cavs will need more of a collaborative effort because it will be in Boston. Game 6, LeBron can win this game by himself. LeBron can go out and beat Boston at home by himself, and that's about what I expect to see.
I expect you to say that, but if that happens, because I saw in game number 2, LeBron had a type of performance that would beat a normal team. They didn't do it. This Celtics team, not as talented. They're two superstars, well documented, not there. But as a team, this is a team that can't be beat by one player. All right? And that's what I believe. All right? We're going to come on this show on Monday, and people are going to be shocked. LeBron James not going to be in the playoffs. What are we going to do? Because I don't believe that this unit, that not only can they win a game in Boston, but I wouldn't be shocked that Boston won game number 6 in Cleveland. Like, based on the way the team has played, the younger players adjusted in game number 4, and the way they played the second quarter, third quarter, and the fourth quarter, and the way they went back to game number 5 and held their business in Boston, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Boston won tonight in Cleveland.
I agree with you that you can't just say LeBron will be enough for them to win a game in Boston, because you're right. We saw game 2 in Boston. LeBron played brilliantly, a 40-point triple-double, and they lost. But we can show the audience the home-road discrepancy. But this is two different teams now. Like, Boston is a great team at home, and they have been bad on the road. Is one great player enough to beat them on the road? I mean, I've seen it happen in this postseason already. I saw Giannis do it. I saw LeBron do it twice already. Go ahead.
Who has more support, Giannis or LeBron?
Giannis.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think, I expect LeBron to play better than Giannis's best game. Like
of course, that kind of math, Nick, of course. Yeah, I expect LeBron to play better. But basketball doesn't work like that. All right? The backcourt of the Cavaliers has been horrible. And there's no number that we can pull. Dusty, get me a stat that's going to tell me JR's going to play better, that they're going to play. There is no stat. So you know where we are back to now? We're back to where we were at the Pacers series. Man, we just believe in LeBron. It's just blind faith. But what if that doesn't work? What if that doesn't work over the next 2 games, which I don't believe it's going to work because of lack of support.
But listen, I am just real quick. I apologize. For Game 7, he needs the backcourt to be better. They need, because when you're talking about how bad the backcourt's been, again, that's the games in Boston.
So what if they lose tonight? What are we going to come on here on Monday? How are we going to explain it to people?
If they lose...
All right, because our job is supposed to give people some type of preview. Mm-hmm. We got 2 games before we're going to be on TV. Mm-hmm. And there's a chance they could lose tonight. So our job is to paint a picture as if they could lose tonight, because if they did, tonight's game is far more important than talking about game number 7.
Sure, but I feel like a lot of what you're describing are scenarios that I think only apply to the Boston team in TD Garden. The Boston backcourt has not been better than the Cavs backcourt.
Oh, okay. Well, let's
Cleveland.
just do the stats of the backcourt at home. How great they've been.
What?
They haven't been good. All right? They've been better. The Cavs backcourt.
Sure,
they've been better at home.
They played into about a draw, right?
They still have been below the NBA average.
Oh, of course.
That's all I'm saying.
I agree with that. And if you're saying, what are we going to do? Like, how am I going to explain it if the Cavs lose it tonight? Listen, I have to own it. I will have been wrong about this from the beginning. But I do not think that when the other team doesn't have an established superstar, no matter how good the supporting cast is, no matter how bad Cleveland's supporting cast is, that Cleveland's going to lose a home elimination game in the Eastern Conference. I don't believe that.
Question. You rejected my question and my premise that LeBron needs to score 100 points and not rely on anything else. I almost reject yours a little, that he could single-handedly go out and win this game. Ty Lue didn't know really how to manage the last game because he didn't know who to rely on. How does he make adjustments now for this game, not knowing, is he going to play Kyle Korver? Is he going to keep the same backcourt? Do you rely on J.R. Smith? I mean, how do you answer those questions?
You bring up a good point, Jenna. In an elimination game, how patient can I be with guys I've depended on? Absolutely. It's legitimate. Everyone should be asking themselves that question. How long can they stay? Do they go with Cedi Osman? You know, do they give him some minutes? Like, there's so many questions surrounding the Cavs that are legitimate. He made a huge mistake in game number 5.
With
all right,
Kyle
as far as Kyle, the number of minutes he played, worrying about the Celtics rotation compared to doing what they do best, and that's put the best shooters on the court. So all those things are on board. What I just try to do, Jenna, is give people a picture of the scenarios of what can happen. And in this game tonight, it's not like Vegas thinks this is one lopsided game. Cleveland is going to win. If they don't win tonight, I just try to give people things they should look at for the upset.
Right, and I just the upset would be the most shocking result of the NBA playoffs thus far.
Okay.
It would be more shocking than Toronto.
But we would at least have our fan base prepared for that.
Okay, well that's your job then.
That's what I'm doing.
That's fine. The point you're making about, listen, Clarkson, maybe he shouldn't be in the rotation. Ty Lue making adjustments. All those things are applicable for Sunday. For tonight, I don't think the game will be close, and I think it will be because of that guy. I guess we'll see. We'll see in about 13 hours.
All right, that's the story there. We'll go back to the Western Conference Finals on the other side. Coming up, who is to blame for the Warriors now being down 3-2 in that series to the Houston Rockets? Next, this is First Things First. Rockets won Game 5, but may have lost Chris Paul in the process of winning Game 5. Injured his hamstring in the final minute, had to leave the court. His status for Game 6 is unknown. Chris, do the Rockets have any chance if CP3 can't go?
Absolutely. They're the best team in basketball and have been over the course of not a month, not 2 months, but the course of the NBA season. Yes, they do. Can they win one game as an organization without Chris Paul? I do believe they can. Because they're not using their bench now, they do have 3 players I do believe will get in that rotation.
Last year, Western Conference semifinals, Kawhi Leonard gets dinged at the end of Game 5, a game the Spurs win. He is then not in Game 6 against the Rockets. Rockets should win it. The Spurs end up winning that game to go on to the Western Conference Finals. I say that to say this. You can win one game. Like, if this was the beginning of the series, you got no shot of winning a series without Chris Paul. You can win one game without Chris Paul. And he still might play. We don't know yet.
All right, moving on to the Knicks. We finally heard from the Unicorn about his new head coach. Kristaps Porzingis expressed his excitement over hiring David Fizdale. He tweeted, "Just had a great conversation on the phone with Coach Fizz. Man, I'm excited. Let's go." CC, how do you expect Fizz to do in New York?
I expect Fizz to do well. I'm pulling for Fizz. I'm a fan of the way he coaches the game from his days in Miami, where I was a season ticket holder with LeBron there. And it's nice to see that his excitement, he does have that type of personality that is infectious. I can see Kristaps getting off the phone being like, okay, never met the guy. I like this guy. He has that type of approach and that type of a demanding personality.
Most important job for the new Knicks head coach, whoever it was going to be, to have a good relationship with the franchise. That's Kristaps Porzingis. There were reports this week they almost traded him to Phoenix. We know Phil Jackson never had a good relationship with him in the front office. That's now solved, it would appear. This is very, very important and a great first win for David Fizdale.
Absolutely. And you need to have a relationship with Kristaps' brother, too. I feel like he's got a role in the process.
Right.
You might hear about him later on.
The All-NBA teams were announced yesterday. Damian Lillard was named first-team guard alongside the assumed MVP James Harden. Nick, should Lillard have made first-team NBA?
Absolutely. This is a great accomplishment for him. Steph Curry had the stats to do it, but only played 50 games. CP3 didn't make any of the teams because of games missed. Kyrie, same situation. Lillard played the full season, got his team to the 3 seed, was excellent. It's a regular season award. He 100% deserved it.
Yeah, this is not some type of reward they're going to give you for having a good season 2 seasons ago, or they're going to make up for something. You have to earn yourself on All-NBA first team. One of the great honors to have in the NBA, man, you're talking about hard to make it. There's only one point guard spot. Man, he earned it. He really did earn it this year. In a time in basketball, we have a lot of great point guards.
That's a good point. All right, finally, another career accomplishment for LeBron James. He was named to first-team All-NBA for the 12th time. He passed Kobe Bryant and Karl Malone for the most selections in NBA history. How impressive is this accomplishment for LeBron, Nick?
So this is the All-NBA team is very important when you're evaluating guys historically and career-wise. And the forward spot, because the way it works is there's 2 guards, 2 forwards, 1 center. So since LeBron's come into the league, the people he's been competing with for one of those 2 first-team spots are Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard as of late. That for 12 years, 12 of LeBron's 15 years, he's been one of the 2 best players at the deepest position in the league. To me, it's remarkable. And LeBron now has more first-team All-NBA selections than Jordan had complete years in Chicago. That's not a LeBron's greater than Jordan thing. That's think of how many memories you have for Jordan's time in Chicago. His entirety there of complete seasons, he played 11 full years there. LeBron's been one of the best forwards in the league 12 times. He has he has a second and a third team as well, or 2 second teams as well. So 14 of his 15 years, he's been on a All-NBA team.
Yeah, it's very, very important. And for those who are LeBron historians or fans of LeBron, this will be one of the topics they'll be able to go to if they're trying to make an honest comparison between LeBron and the other great players, most notably Michael Jordan. And this difference right here in how long he could stay in his prime, how long could he stay as one of the best players in the NBA, that's going to be one of the message points if he's ever going to catch up with Jordan or ever go beyond Michael Jordan. It's, man, NBA, first team, 12 years. He's going to add on to that. Now, can he get another ring? Because those will be the arguments because the playoff record, finals record, the 6 MVPs, that is unapproachable. So LeBron can only go to these other little areas that I believe being valuable, critical to the argument for people like Nick Wright.
And this is because for some people, the Jordan 6 rings will always make Jordan the greatest player ever, 6 for 6. Our friend Isaiah Thomas, when he was here, the guy he brings up is Kareem. Like the LeBron-Kareem totality of their careers, that's where this is most applicable. When you look at how long Kareem was great, how long he extended his prime, that's the territory LeBron was approaching and is now, I don't know if he's quite surpassed the length of Kareem's prime, but he's neck and neck with him and doesn't appear to be slowing down.
So impressive. All right, back to the only basketball game that mattered last night. Only the basketball game, also the only basketball game that was even played. Rockets beat the Warriors. Stop, Nick. Rockets beat the Warriors in an ugly game, but it was a pivotal one. They now take a 3-2 series lead. The Warriors have now dropped 2 playoff games in a row. They haven't done that since the 2016 finals. However, as expected, Steve Kerr says he's not worried heading into Game 6.
I feel great about where we are right now. And that may sound crazy, but I feel it. I know exactly what I'm seeing out there. And we defended them beautifully tonight. We got everything we needed. Just too many turnovers, too many reaches. And if we settle down a little bit, we're going to be in really good shape.
It's a big statement there. Really good shape, because they're not in great shape right now. What do you think about what Steve Kerr said, CeCe?
Oh, I don't believe him. I can't believe after that game, because I listened to Draymond, because I went back and listened to Draymond after game number 4. And Draymond was like, man, you know, we're pissed. We gave a game away. I think they gave this game away. I mean, you can't expect Houston to shoot the ball that poorly again. You can't expect Chris Paul to be out of the game in the most critical time again. Like, you can't expect that, like, in Houston. Like, if there was a Game 7, and you say, hey, Steve Kerr, you have the same scenario again. He'd be like, yeah, absolutely. Sign me up for that. But that would be after they had won game number 6, not knowing where Iggy's going to be back. So, no, I don't believe him. Now, this is the first time, Nick, that they've been down the series since when?
First time they've been trailing in a series since before they got Durant, when they were down 3-1 to OKC and then down 3-2 to OKC.
Yeah,
like,
and the reason why I know, Jenna, because I work with a guy. Oh, shit, I ain't worried. Shaking his, he like the duck on the pond.
Right.
Them feet up under. LeBron. Low. Steve Kerr, he should be concerned. This is the best team that he's faced in this run that they've been on. This is the only team that had home court advantage against them. And do they have the matchups? Do they have the firepower? No, they can't outshoot Houston. This is the first time they faced anyone in this run that'd be like, man, we can't outshoot them. There got to be some other ways that we got to try to beat them. In the last 2 games, they had a chance to win. But their inability to run their offense in the last minute of the game,
I mean, there you
it's
go.
shocking.
There you go. James Harden drove to the basket, kicked it to Eric Gordon to hit a 3 with 1:20 left. That put Houston up by 4 points. That was also the last basket Houston made. 1:20 left. Houston's done making baskets. Houston's done scoring, except for in foul situations where the Warriors are fouling to stop the clock. Go ahead.
And in a lot of playoff situations, championship situations, that's all the field goals you get. It's normally a free throw shooting contest after that. So that's a typical situation they were in when he hits that.
So
3.
Houston doesn't make another basket. The rest of the way, let's look at what Golden State runs, who gets the shots, and who is not involved. Draymond gets a 3. Great make by him. Quinn Cook takes their most important shot of the season with Steph running wide open. That ain't great. Steph Curry misses a very tough layup. And then the final possession of the game, you're kicking it up to Draymond. Let's show this again. Kevin Durant, is he standing out of bounds? You're going to see someone fly into the screen at the end here. It's not Kevin Durant. He never comes into the frame. See, you told me that Kevin Durant knew he made a mistake at the end of Game 4.
Absolutely.
That he said, I knew I should have taken that shot. Well, he couldn't have scripted a better opportunity to make up for it than at the end of game number 5. 4 possessions. Draymond gets a 3, and credit Draymond, who is never afraid of anything, going back to Game 7 against the Cavs when Draymond had a brilliant basketball game. Draymond takes a shot. Quinn Cook, who was in the G League.
He was so wide open, he had enough time to take a dribble.
Yeah, I mean, he fumbled the ball. He couldn't believe it. The next possession down, Steph, I'll give Steph credit. Steph attacked the basket. Really tough shot, but at least he was in attack mode. And then that last play, when you have to, you know the Rockets have a foul to give, so there's a little, you can't quite do the easy math. They screwed up the rebound, so they couldn't advance it to midcourt. But KD's not involved. What was KD? If Draymond doesn't turn the ball over, I'm just curious. What's KD's plan 46 feet from the basket with 1 foot out of bounds with 4 seconds left?
Every coach I ever had said, hey, man, you got a guy next to you? Uncover. Go to an open area. Try to create some space for yourself. He didn't move.
Was Quinn Cook the plan ever drawn? Was it ever drawn up that Quinn Cook was going to get the ball and take the shot? This is the second straight game that ended like this. The last game that came down to the wire we talked about it, and CC, you were surprised. You're like, I'm surprised there wasn't a better play drawn up or any semblance of a play. It looked like everybody was a mess. It kind of appeared that it was this way, too.
Absolutely, Jenna. It's a great observation. And no, they didn't draw up anything. Well, Chris, how you know that? The reason why? Because they hadn't played one single minute with that lineup that they had with Quinn Cook in the game all season. We're at game, what, 96 in the season?
Now, let me say this. That's remarkable. That was the first minute. I hadn't seen that. That was the first minute they had played with that five-man lineup?
Yes.
I guess it makes sense because Cook was brought up when Steph was hurt, so why would he be out there in those spots?
Yeah, so, Jim, to your question, there's no way they called up a play because Steve Kerr had never anticipated that lineup being in the game. And the way the dysfunction, the lack of spacing, the lack of movement lets you know they didn't have a great concept for what they're going to do. So in the last two games, if I'm Steve Kerr, the reason why I'm concerned is I know I've crushed this NBA the last 4 years. I know I've only won 2 of the championships. I gave one away, up 3-1. But these closeout situations, how to close out games, you know something? We're not real good at that. Well, you know why? You've been so dominant. You got such an access of shooters and scorers and great players that's a part of the game that you're not really, really good at. Who's going to shoot the ball at the end of the game?
The last time I remember, there's 2 times that stick out in my mind of the Warriors in a theoretical big game or a definite big game, and they had the play you remember. One is obviously Kevin Durant last year coming up court after the Corver missed at the 3 on LeBron. And the one prior to that was Steph from like 38 feet in the game against Oklahoma City, the 73-win year in overtime, if you remember. That game was on a Friday night. It was in overtime. He pulls up from almost 40. And they're not in these spots a lot. So they don't have a lot of experience in these spots. But Kevin Durant in these fourth quarters now, this is going to be a thing. You can't be 1 for 5 in game 4 in the fourth quarter and in game 5 in the fourth quarter 0 for 4. You can't be shooting 18% and 12% from 3 and averaging 3 points in the fourth quarter when in the first 3 quarters you look like the most unstoppable scorer in the league, and when fatigue is not really an excuse here because he is getting rested. He is getting subbed out. He's not playing 44 minutes a night. Like, game 4 was the only game where he played plus 40 minutes in this entire series.
But for this whole team, what percentage of the season have they really only had to turn it on the first or the second or the third quarter? No. There are so few times where they've had to really, come from behind and play hard in the fourth quarter and try to win a game in the last minute.
And, Jenna, that's why I believe that this team is not as prepared as the first Golden State team before they had KD, when they were trying to win as many games as possible, where winning was important to them. The regular season was paramount to them. Now, we saw them sleepwalk through the regular season, and now you start getting in close and contested series and games. You can see that this is something they haven't worked on an awful lot.
And this is why, at the beginning of the show, as petty or maybe even unprofessional as some would see it seemed, for me to be happy the Rockets won. It is good for basketball fans for the regular season to matter. And if Houston wins this series,
then it matters.
The regular season will have mattered. The Warriors just saying we're going to flip a switch. We don't care about home court. We don't care about any of this. It will bite them. It will have bitten them if they lose the series. Now, they haven't lost this series yet. Still got to beat them one more time. But that's why, as a basketball fan, it's easy to. I know a lot of people that don't like the way the Rockets play, don't like James Harden. They think CP3 is. They've never liked him. They don't like D'Antoni's style, and they're rooting for Houston because it will make the regular season feel like it's not nonsense, like it actually has some impact.
And we saw that the way Game 4 ended was a mental blow for the Warriors. Let's see if the way Game 5 ended will be as well. All right, coming up, who'll step up for the Dallas Cowboys next year? Let's switch gears, talk some football on the other side. First things first. Back here, first things first, we're about 3 months away from Game 1 of the NFL season. Cowboys open up against the Panthers. Who will Dak Prescott be throwing the ball to that afternoon? It won't be Jason Witten. And it won't be Des Bryant. They'll have a new receiving core in Dallas with a whole new set of expectations. Cowboys receiver Deontay Thompson had this to say, quote, "I'm excited to be in a group of guys who are hungry and want to prove the world wrong. I don't really have too much social media stuff, so I barely hear it. But we know what they say. But we'll be having this discussion in November, and it will be totally different." All right, CC, I'll start with you. How much do the Cowboys need from their receivers to be successful this year?
Oh, here we go. Watch Chris Carter get another group of wide receivers in the NFL mad at him. I've been doing this for years. And,
did it start with Seattle and Doug Baldwin, or did something
it's been long before. It's been long before. Even back to T.O. when T.O. was opposite of Jerry Rice, I didn't know who he was, and T.O. took that as a personal indictment.
Is that where that started?
Yeah, because I didn't know who he was. I didn't know he was going to be a Hall of Famer.
Not your fault, CC.
No,
not your
it's not
fault.
I thought J.J. Stokes was going to be the best young receiver on that team back then.
Absolutely, so did they.
All right, so let's add another to the list. Here we go.
And I laugh about this is because I bump into Julian Edelman, and I asked him about his knee being repaired and everything. He said things are going well and everything. I told him, man, I really respect your game, respect you as a player, how you've developed and everything. He was like, yeah, you know, I like you on TV, but I gotta be truthful with you. Didn't always like you. And I was like, why? He's like, oh, man, I used to hear you used to tell me, you know, I was just a quarterback playing slot receiver and everything. And I was like, well, where was I wrong? He was like, you know, people just don't believe in you. I said, what was I supposed to believe in? What had you done? He was like, no, you know, I just use it as motivation. You're a great wide receiver, and I just really wanted you to say great things about me. And I said, listen, man, it's a trade-off here. I'm going to be on TV, okay? Do something great. I'll say something great about you.
Awesome.
All right, Deontay Thompson, I've been watching him since high school.
Right.
Okay? Bell Glaze, the University of Florida. Like, he's been a role player even at the University of Florida, let alone in the National Football League. So I don't care what they read on social media. I don't care what they... This is what the underdog role is all about. Oh, they don't believe in us. You know, if you're undersized, how am I supposed to believe in you? If you've been a backup, how am I supposed to believe? If you've never had a 1,000-yard season, how am I supposed to believe? They have a bunch of guys who are misfits, and now they don't have a lead dog. They don't have a number one receiver. None of these guys is a number one receiver. That's not my fault. That's Dallas's fault. Now, will these guys try to come together as a group and collectively get it done? Yeah, you can do that when you got Tom Brady. You could do that when you got Aaron Rodgers. When you got some of the greater throwers, we don't see this happen. Unnamed guys being able to duplicate productivity that we see with big name guys.
In that unit.
No. Only when you have one of the top 5 passers in the league do we see you able to get away with that.
Listen, I think you're being a little unfair, Deontay Thompson. 77 catches, 1,032 yards. Oh, that's not last year. That's his 6-year career. My bad. No, you're being totally
so it's my fault. yeah, you're right.
Listen, you're totally correct that sometimes out of nowhere, oh, my God, Julius Thomas. Nobody knew about him. He's one of the best tight ends in football. Oh, that's when he was paired up with Peyton Manning. Like Wes Welker, the Dolphins didn't even want him. Like and now he's has 4 straight amazing seasons. Oh, he was paired up with Tom Brady and then Peyton Manning. Like there are guys that you can come out of nowhere and all of a sudden you only ask them to do what they're best at. They are always put in a position to succeed. Something you taught me that I love. The ball speaks to them. Yes. So wherever the ball is passed, this is an important note for whether you're talking about Cole Beasley or Terrence Williams or Allen Hurns, a benefit I don't think any of these guys have really ever had in their career, and I don't know that they'll have this year with Dak, which is when you are playing with a great quarterback and a ball is thrown to a certain place, what it tells you, as opposed to when you're not playing with a great quarterback and the ball might be thrown to a certain place because he was off. Explain what the ball speaking to you means, because that's one of the reasons these underskilled guys can turn into the best versions of themselves.
Right. The ball speaks to them and makes them better because it lets them know what the coverage is and it lets them know where the other defenders on the field are. Say you have a shallow cross. You have a guy in your face, man-to-man. You go up underneath him. The quarterback throws the ball in front of you. You think it's man-to-man, but the guy could have jammed you and dropped off, all right? But the quarterback throwing it in front of you, he lets you know there's green grass in front of you. It's probably going to be man-to-man. If the quarterback throws the ball at your back shoulder, it's like, watch out, man. You got heavy artillery in front of you. Slow yourself down and go back the other way. So a great quarterback, it does help unknown. It does help guys who have been number 3s, number 4 receivers trying to come together. And I've only been wrong about this one time, and that was the Seattle Seahawks. And that was because of Doug Baldwin. Doug Baldwin made me wrong. I said they were just ordinary guys. They were just role players. But Doug Baldwin stepped up his game. Now, as a group, They were very effective as a group, being on a running team, a lot like Dallas, with a young quarterback. They proved me to be wrong. And Doug Baldwin knows it. I apologize to him. Doug Baldwin went on to become a Pro Bowl receiver.
Right.
Which one of these guys is going to step up and be the Doug Baldwin to make me wrong?
So there's two ways that can work in Dallas. One, if they succeed as the underdog receiving corps and somehow a bunch of no-names are going to come together and become this unit that no one expected. Or two, Dak Prescott has to come out and have a lights-out year in year 3. Do we expect that to happen?
Well, to the Doug Baldwin thing, just quickly, he became a better player, but also I would imagine part of your analysis baked into that was you didn't think at the time Seattle had a Tom Brady at quarterback. And Russell Wilson ain't Tom Brady, but man, he's turned into an amazing, to me, a top 5 quarterback in this league.
Yes, absolutely. And he made that jump from a running defensive team to now I'm the guy.
Right.
You can back me up 40 times, 50 times, and you can win doing that.
And so I don't know, to answer your question, I don't see that type of leap coming from Dak. Like Russell Wilson to me is a top 5 quarterback in this league. Right now, Dak's fighting to become a top 15 quarterback in this league. It's an enormous jump to go from there to there because even Russell Wilson's first year, second year, third year, you could see some flashes of it. The reason this is going to be so hard for Dallas is you talk all the time about every number 2 wants to be a number 1. Every number 3 wants to be a number 2.
Yes.
I look at Dallas. I think Allen Hurns a legitimate number 2 receiver. He's going to have to be their number 1. Everyone else on this team is a 4. Right? Like, their number 2 is going to have to be their number 1. And Cole Beasley is an excellent 4th receiver. You can deal with him as your 3rd receiver. Terrence Williams, be an excellent 4th receiver. He can be a 3rd receiver.
Yeah, you can't have him as no damn designated driver, though.
No, you can't have that. That's a fair point. I didn't expect that one. Deontay Thompson has been a 6th receiver.
Barely make an NFL roster.
But if you add all those up, what number do you get?
Oh, that's not quite how that math works.
Oh, okay.
So,
that's not how it works?
So,
okay, I wasn't sure.
So what's the path? So what is the path to the Cowboys in your eyes having a great offense?
They have to be outstanding running the football. They have to be outstanding from a turnover standpoint. They have to be amazing defense, winning the turnover margin. And this is what this wide receiver group, what they want to be. They want to be dependable. They want to generate first downs and generate big plays and touchdowns in the red zone. All right, now, if I can get 2 out of those 3, if they can be very, very dependable, moving the chains on 3rd down, and if they can either be great with the deep ball, I'm talking about passes over 20-yard, explosive passes, which they haven't been good at, or just be outstanding in the red zone. That's what the Dallas Cowboys needs from this wide receiving corps.
And of all those things, the running game we know is probably locked in, and maybe the defense is. So there's a lot of questions still to be answered in Dallas. All right, we'll take a break. Coming up, Chris Broussard joins us to discuss how the Rockets were able to take down the Warriors next on First Things First. Welcome back to First Things First. Yet another Chris is with us. Chris Broussard joins the conversation. Chris.
Oh, good to see you, brother.
What a game last night. You can't say it didn't surprise you. Just a little bit? A little bit? Were you a little bit
It was
surprised?
just, I don't know if surprise is the right word. Yeah, it was just I thought it was a great game. A lot of people complaining, saying it wasn't well played. It was playoff basketball.
It wasn't well broadcasted. It wasn't commentated. It was a great basketball. I thought it was
a great game. It reminded me, just quickly, it was better played than these games, but it reminded me of when I used to cover the Knicks and the Heat series.
In the 90s?
That were terrible basketball games, but with 2 minutes left, it was always within the balance.
That's
so
what
it made it
telling
exciting.
Nick, that I've seen with the NBA and critical sporting events, that at the most critical time, it's almost impossible to play great because of the stakes, because of the pressure, because of the defense.
Yes.
So I don't expect that, even though I thought the game was a great game, aesthetically to the viewers, sometimes people look at it and be like, it could have been a better game.
So let me just at least set the table. Rockets go ahead and take a 3-2 series lead over the Warriors. 98-94 was your final. I think some people thought it was ugly. It was a little low scoring. The first quarter, shots weren't going in. Both Harden and CP3 struggled early on, and then the Warriors struggled late. But all that, how were the Rockets, Chris, able to beat the Warriors last night? How do you break it down?
When your top 2 players shoot 11 for 40, when you shoot 37% as a team and win against a great offensive team, there's only one explanation: defense. And what has happened, you never thought you'd say that about Mike D'Antoni, coach team. I know he's got Jeff Bizdelek as kind of his defensive coordinator, but give D'Antoni credit for setting that up, okay, and letting Bizdelek do his thing. But what they have done is, I've said it before, they have baited, switching everything. They've baited Golden State to playing ISO basketball. Golden State, we know they've talked about passes. They are very, they're adamant about the number of passes they get per game. They are throwing 58 fewer passes per game in this series than they did in the regular season and the first 2 rounds. They are going ISO almost 3 times as much as they did in the first 2 rounds in the regular season.
Yep.
Their assists, they led the league with assists, almost 30 a game, which is ridiculous. And now they had 14 in game 4, 18 last night. They have gotten away from themselves. And I've said it before, what made them special was all the motion, the fluidity.
Because it made them so hard to guard.
Exactly. You don't see that anymore.
It was, that is, and I know, listen, for about 20 months or 18 months, however long, my opinion that the Warriors shouldn't have signed Kevin Durant has looked crazy. We'll see how it looks in about 96 hours. But the reason that I initially felt it in my heart was because they were playing a style of basketball I'd never seen a team play at that high of a level. The freedom of movement, the sharing of the basketball, and I thought that it elevated Steph to a level that he was, when they signed Durant, my concern was, yeah, you're adding the second best player in the world, but are you turning Steph from the second best player in the world to the 8th or 9th best player in the world? Now, they won a championship with it. They were the heavy favorites going into this series. So I'm not saying that they shouldn't have signed Durant. I said it a year and a half ago, and it's looked wrong. The point that I'm making is they haven't looked like the Warriors this series. They just flatly, offensively, have looked like a lot of really great teams have looked. We got a bunch of good players. We're going to go in ISO. They haven't looked like the team that was a force of nature offensively.
What it looks like is that Steph and Clay and the rest of their great players are just deferring to Durant. I mean, how many times are they coming by half court and just giving it to Kevin and then running away and expecting him to do something? So your point is well taken.
Yeah, I love the fact that you brought out with the passes, because we had looked at a couple games and they had been down 50 passes in a game or two. But now, over the collection of 5 games, that's 200 passes over the course of the series. That's a lot less motion. It's easier to defend, and it doesn't play to their strong suit. We talked about in the segment before about Golden State with the lack of continuity playing with the guys they're playing with. And then now if they're trying to not only play with different guys, they're going to play a different style. That's why they don't look like the Warriors. But to me, it's just lack of being tested in pressure situations. It's not that big of an adjustment. The last 2 minutes of the game, they need to concentrate on what they're doing.
Last 2 games.
If they can correct that, I mean, signing Kevin Durant was well worth it and will be well worth it, because now every team in the NBA is adjusting to what they did. It did get them another championship on top of the other one that they had. And you have to have, as a group, if this group doesn't win 3 or 4 championships, it's going to take away from them being special.
Listen, and I know we're going to talk more about the Warriors when you're on with us later. I do want to give the Rockets credit, because it's not just because they're a 65-win
they're
team.
making.
It's not to win a game when Harden's 0 for 11 from 3, and Trevor Ariza makes 1 shot, and Chris Paul doesn't make a basket in the first half, is incredible to me. I thought they would go into this game and try to make, of course they're going to try to make, but where they would shoot 40 to 45 threes. They shot 43 of them. They only made 13. And we can say, oh, well, Golden State turned the ball over. Golden State turns the ball over now. That's their bugaboo.
They've been careless.
The Rockets' ability to finish these games, and the Rockets' ability, even when they're not making shots, to stay locked in defensively. Because that's what happened, Jenna, in Game 3. Game 3, they were within striking distance at the end of the first half, and they had missed a dozen layups, and they never started hitting their shots, and they let go of the rope defensively. In these last 2 games, even when their shots aren't falling, they are so locked in defensively that it is stifling Golden State.
Well, they're going to have to be now. The one thing we all agreed on was that there was no way the Rockets were going to win if those 2 guys, Harden and CP3, weren't great. They both had to play great. Well, maybe last night was a silver lining that they won and they didn't play great, because now they may be without CP3, pulled up with a hamstring injury. He left the court. even if he does come back, he's not going to be 100%. He will still be hurting a little bit. How does that affect everything moving forward, whether he plays or not?
Yeah, it's obviously going to be tough without him. But I heard you guys say earlier, and you're right. They can win one game without him. They can't win a series against this team without him, but they can certainly win one game. I don't know how in the world this stat happened, but last night, Chris Paul was negative 13.
He was the only Rockets player that was negative in the plus-minus. I don't know how it happened.
I thought in the second half, he carried them, and he's done that obviously the last 2 games. If it wasn't for him in that third quarter, it was tremendous what he did. So, look, you can look at that plus-minus. There's another stat.
I'll tell you how it happened, though. It happened because the Rockets had that 11-point lead. He comes back in the game, and while in the first quarter, and while they lose it over the course of the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, he's on the court when the Warriors went on their one run. That's why he ended up being negative for the game.
What happens if he can't play?
Well, one of the challenges is this. They have only played 7 guys the last 2 games. And Gerald Green's played about 11 or 12 minutes each game. So they're essentially playing 6 guys. Now, you have to play at least 7, I think. So what role player that hasn't played in the last 2 games, and Mute, whoever, gets in there and plays well and is comfortable after having sat this long. So that's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, one thing, too, it's a challenge. But you also have Eric Gordon, who was in a slump. He's playing the best basketball he played in a long time. So you give him more minutes. Belmute, you got to put him back in the game. You got to give him 5 to 8 minutes. Like, this is a great basketball team. It's not absent of talent. Chris Paul, the other teams he was on, I would be terrified if he was hurt. The other teams that D'Antoni had, if their point guard was out, I would be terrified because their number 1 ball handler would be out. With Houston, Chris Paul's not the number 1 ball handler, and if they didn't have James Harden, who is not playing well, but still waiting for that MVP performance, like to clinch the series. Like, what if he comes up with that game? So I put that in the equation. The 65-game wins, the athletic character that they developed during the season, and shutting Golden State down at the end of these 2 games, Games 4 and Game 5 to win them, I believe that moving forward will pay dividends.
All right, Rockets now 1 game away from going to the finals.